Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Thank you so much for all of you who joined me yesterday. It was awesome chatting with you guys. And just so you know, after the live ended, the power went out 2 more times. Welcome to California, the land of dinosaurs. For those of you who weren't able to join me, I am doing another live Q&A about the trucking industry this Sunday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern. Now in this video, we're going to be exploring the general market situation as of April 2023 and how it changed from March of 2023. If you're new to this channel, welcome. I teach about the trucking industry with a heavy focus on the spot market as well as freight market analysis. So if this is a topic that interests you, feel free to subscribe down below. Anyway, guys, without further ado, let's get into the market this month. Ready? Let's go. Well, I always start these videos by looking at the diesel prices. What is going on with diesel, right? So according to AAA, this is where we are right now, $4.21, which is another decrease since last month, which is wonderful. Now, according to Sonar, the actual truck stop price per gallon, it's at $4.26, not $4.21. And this is actually no longer the lowest diesel price in a year, in a 52-week period. And it's not surprising, honestly, because the price per barrel has been going up. If we look at this chart right here, which is the diesel truck stop actual price per gallon, we can see, and I'm going to zoom in here, we can see that the lowest point was a few days ago. I mean, the lowest point in a year was a few days ago right here. And currently we are at $4.26 per gallon on average. Now let's take a look at a more detailed view of diesel prices by looking at the 5 most expensive states and the 5 least expensive states. Okay, so the most expensive states, we have the price at the pump and then the real price per gallon. How is the real price per gallon calculated? Well, it takes into consideration the IFTA tax for that state, right? So the real price is the price at the pump minus that IFTA tax. If we're looking at the price at the pump, California is still the most expensive state at $5.32 per gallon. Then we have Washington, Maine, New York, and Pennsylvania. But if we take into consideration the IFTA tax, the most expensive state is actually Maine at $4.54 per gallon, and California is on 3rd place. Now, what about the least expensive states when it comes to diesel? Well, we have the same exact chart, right? The price at the pump and the real price per gallon right here. And yes, this will all be attached down below. The least expensive state when it comes to the price at the pump is Texas, $3.72 per gallon. Then we have Oklahoma, Missouri, Kansas, and Arkansas. But if we look at the real price per gallon, which is deducting this IFTA tax, we can see that, hey, Texas is still the cheapest state, $3.52 per gallon. Then we have Arkansas, Kansas, Oklahoma, and Missouri. Okay, now on to the freight market. And I know I show this chart every single Friday, or Thursday and Friday when I do the market update and forecast, but we're going to be looking at it from a little bit of a different perspective this time. Blue shows us volume, right? How much freight there is in the market. The white line shows us tender rejections, how much of that contract freight is getting pushed into the spot market, right? So this chart actually shows us how much the volume and the tender rejection changed since this day in March of 2023. So what is the change over a month? And what we can see is volumes, they actually, what is going on? There we go. Volumes dropped by 1% since March, and tender rejections dropped by 15.6% since March, since a month ago. What does this mean? This means that we are in a worse position as of April, what is today? April 17th, 2023, than we were as of March 16th of 2023. Unfortunately, there is less freight to transport and the volumes on the spot market are continuing to decrease. Now, if you want an exact number of what the tender rejection looks like right now, it's at 2.92%, which means out of all the contract freight, only 2.92% is getting actually pushed into the spot market, which is a very, very small amount. Now, what about the National Truckload Index for line haul only? This shows us the spot market rate without fuel surcharge. And this data is based on dry vans only, right? So currently, we're at $1.57 per mile on average, which means that this is way below the cost of operating for many carriers. And that means that many carriers are losing money on each mile that they drive. Now, if we look at this chart as a whole, we can see that since March 14th, right here, look at this drop. And this drop happened around April 8th. Yeah, so the drop in the spot line haul only rate. Now, something I never really showed is the spread between contract and spot market freight. So let's take a look at that. Here we have it, and this is over a period of 5 years. Currently, contract freight is paying on average 85 cents more than the spot market, which means that there is still room for those contract rates to fall. Now, why is this important to us? Well, because if contract rates pay almost $1 over what the spot market pays, that means that those contract carriers will not be rejecting those contract loads and sending them to the spot market because they have a better alternative, right? They do not have a better alternative. And that means that the tender rejection rate will be lower. What does that mean? That means that the volume on the spot market will be lower. And paired with the overcapacity of trucks, we basically have still a ways to go before we can see an increase in those spot rates. Does that make sense? Now let's take a look at the general head haul index for all equipment types. This takes into consideration everything. And this shows us the change over a month. If the market area is red or a shade of red, that means there were more inbound trucks going into that market than there were outbound loads. Basically, those red markets or reddish markets are a bad place to be. There's overcapacity there. If the market area is blue or a shade of blue, that means that it's the opposite. There were less inbound trucks and more outbound volume. There is no overcapacity there. So if we look in general, we can see that this map, I don't know if you can see it clearly, but it's basically pinkish red with some places that are blue, especially Southern California, Dallas, Texas, Pennsylvania, and some southern and Midwestern states. The Northwest is also very, very light blue, which means that there is not as much overcapacity there anymore, at least compared to last month, and that's decent. But in general, we can see, this shows us capacity trends, and we can see there is pretty much overcapacity across the board. There is not much volume compared to the amount of trucks. And of course, when that happens, when there is a huge oversupply of capacity and a lack of demand from shippers, the rates are going to be less than desirable. Now, if we look at this map right here, which shows us how volumes have changed for all equipment types since last month. Now, red means there was a decrease in volume, in outbound volume, less stuff to transport. Blue is the opposite. That means there was an increase. If it's gray or white, that means there was no significant change. What we can see is that, again, the map, the majority of the map is red. On the big scale, there was a decrease in volume for pretty much all equipment types. There were some increases, of course, in Wyoming, New Mexico. Right here, this is the Nogales. This is the Tucson, Arizona, Nogales area. And this is probably because of the produce that's coming in from Mexico into Nogales to be transported across the US. But in general, something that I keep repeating, and I want to bring your attention to this again, California, which is a huge produce market, is red. Volumes decreased. So there is no produce season yet. The Grandview, Washington, Yakima, Washington area decreased in volume. This is where a lot of onions get shipped out from. Not much. Idaho, no potatoes. Although, is it the season for potatoes right now? That is something I don't know. For some reason, I have no idea. In terms of Houston, not much. Florida, no change. Produce has yet to materialize. So to put it all together, April 2023 is testing my patience, it's testing your patience, and it's testing everyone's patience. There is still way too many trucks in the market and not enough volume to soak up some of that capacity. Now, to top it off, contract carriers are not motivated to reject their contract freight. First of all, they do not have any better alternative. And second of all, in an unpredictable freight market, of course, those contract carriers are holding on to that contract freight for dear life. And this leaves the load board with the crappiest loads and a small number of them. April has always been the worst month for us since we started. First, it was April of 2020 when the COVID shutdowns happened. Then in April of 2022 was the first time we actually lost money. And then we have the crapstorm of today. Do I think this market will get better? I don't think. I know it will get better. The only question is when. The freight market has a very clear cycle. Rates go up, capacity enters, there's overcapacity, rates go down, capacity leaves, rates go up. Of course, today we have an abnormal situation because we have those additional hurdles like the high diesel prices, inflation, and the mess in the economy. So the only question, as I said before, is when will the market get better considering all of these factors? But one thing is for sure, in the current environment, a ton of carriers will eventually be forced out. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching. I hope you learned something new. Stay safe, stay resilient, and I'll see you guys in the next video.